Hi guys, welcome back to another Rise video. Again, Rise is the tabletop RPG I've been developing. It's similar to something like D&D. And along with making the game system, I've also been developing sort of a campaign, a world, everything that you would need to start playing. So let's look today at the general map. We'll talk about the setting and maybe get a little bit of information more on the history of this world. So looking at the map, boom, we've got this here. I can move my camera actually so you can see that this is called the World of Elara. Shrink myself down for a little bit. So Elara is a moon actually. It's an exomoon. So this planet is actually not a planet at all. It is, like I said, a moon, and it's set in outer space. This is sort of a sci-fi fantasy world. An exomoon is a habitable moon that orbits a planet. And the star that this planet and moon orbit is a white dwarf star. So I do actually have a bit of a physics background, so I understand some of this stuff. A lot of it is going to be sort of very sci-fi, fantasy, not super applicable. However, the concept of exomoons being habitable are actually a real thing. A little bit about the setting. The moon Elara orbits the planet Vuld, V-U-L-D. They both orbit a white dwarf star. There was a long time ago, this moon was not habitable. There were some parts of it that could have been habitable, but a lot had to be done in order for these races to settle here. So there was this ancient war 1,000 years ago that resulted in all these spacefaring races being no longer able to maintain the technology and the power they once had, so they've all landed here and sort of settled onto this moon Elara. All right, so a little bit of information about how the day and night cycle, the seasons work. All of that is very, very similar to Earth. However, there's no official quote-unquote sunrise on Elara. What actually happens is the moon itself is orbiting around the planet Vuld, and when it's orbiting on the far side of Vuld, that is when nighttime occurs. So nighttime is actually when the planet eclipses the sun, and it's not like an eclipse on Earth where it's just barely been eclipsed. No, the entire planet covers the sky for many hours. So it's a very interesting dark night because there's also no stars and there's no moonlight as well. However, some of the light does get around the planet, and so it's not as dark as pitch black. So similar brightness to maybe a night on Earth. So let's maybe zoom in here a little and see a little bit of the locations. I'm not going to go in depth on every location. I'll save that for maybe a different video. The first one of the locations we might look at today is, I'll put myself back normal size over here. There we go. Is this kind of a peninsula here called the Argan Peninsula, sort of starting down here and going all up this. However, most of the Argan Peninsula is just this area here north of this mossy wood location. So this is where, in the campaign that I'm developing, this is where the beginning of that takes place, in the city of Prudence, actually, this city here. I just want to point out that many of these things are not drawn to scale. So you'll see like buildings. These buildings are not like gigantic necessarily, but it's just to give you a sense of size and importance more so. So this is Prudence and the Argan Peninsula. We move down here into the region of the Southern Federation. The Southern Federation is what's left of this Federation army, or this big, worldwide government that was reigning in the years following this. The fall is what we call it. That's the end of the war that happened 1,000 years ago, bringing these races down onto this planet. So we have down here this big giant tree. I thought that was really awesome. I love, this concept of a giant tree. This is where many of the elven race, the Vata, live. We have these this Sandsmouth. This is the capital of the Southern Federation down here. The Strigan Sea is really interesting. There's lots of actually giant nitrogen bubbles that come forth, making it very difficult to sail over there. We have this desert over here, the Meso Desert. There's like an oasis, all this cool stuff up here. Locuster, really cool. They actually have tamed a bunch of like insectoid creatures. The native creatures on this planet are mostly insects, so these guys have tamed a lot of them, and they ride them, fly them around. Think like Nausicaa, Valley of the Winds, the movie. The Mox Crater. It's a lot of interesting technological developments have happened there. We have the Fey Wilds, lots of interesting creatures. We had a marsh. We have another city up here into the far north. We got the Northern Sea on this side. We have the Northern Federation. I'll come back to you later. The Northern Federation, capital being the city Zhao. There's Graventon, which has just polluted the crap out of everything. This kind of oaken land that's very much like where sort of these tribal races are living. We've got out here is the dark vastness. So as I mentioned, the nighttime is not when the moon faces away from the star, but it's when the planet is covering up the star. So the moon actually itself doesn't rotate. It's always facing towards the star, so there's always a dark side of this moon, and the dark side of the moon is what you see on the very edge, the far right and the far left side, the west and the east side of this. So there's a very dark and unexplored portion of this moon here. We have down here, this ocean here. We have this crystal bay, lots of cool crystal action going on here. The Florian jungle. We have a cloud forest up here, pretty cool. We got some badlands, volcanic activity. The Federation HQ. So I did mention there's a Northern and Southern Federation. There's also the Federation Army, which is a separate entity itself. It's sort of like a global police force or army military force that works in conjunction with the Northern and Southern Federations, keeping them from going to war, because a portion of each of the Northern and Southern Federations have to give to the Federation Army, which is technically supposed to be neutral. So here's a pretty interesting concept. I think this is the general world. A little bit other information. There's a group of people of different races at the end of the fall, at the end of this ancient war that brought all these races here. This group of people utilized super hyper advanced technology and arcana magic to essentially terraform this planet to be habitable, and these people then gained some form of immortality through this process and power, and those people are now called the constellations, and they are the gods of this world, though they don't actually have godlike powers. They just have this advanced technology and magic that they've been using to sustain themselves. Nobody knows where they are currently or what has happened to them, but many people still worship them here. So if there's anything on this map that you're super interested in, stuff that you want to know more about, please leave that in the comments below. If you like this video, click the like button. If you want to see more about Rise or the Lost Moon of Elara, please subscribe to this channel so you can see more of this stuff. I have lots of character building videos, lots of information on how to make a character in Rise. The most unique thing about Rise itself is the character customization. There's millions, trillions, literally like 10 to the 15th options at max level for what you can do with a character. That's what makes Rise so unique. So thank you guys so much for watching. My name's Alex again. Bye-bye.